How do I show up fully present for my teenage son without engaging in arguments with him? By remembering that arguments, conflicts happen when we're arguing are both right stories. And the right stories is in conflict with each other. Because have you ever noticed everyone is trying to convince you that they're right? It's not like you sit down in an argument. It's not like somebody says to you, let me convince you why I'm really wrong. Said nobody ever, right? We're always trying to convince that other person, we're right, you're wrong. And confrontation stems from the energy. And that's important for you to acknowledge your energy, because communication is all about energy, not what you say, but how you're making them feel, right? Confrontation stems from the energy, and the source energy is, I am right, you are wrong. You ever felt that energy from somebody? As in you're speaking with them and they just make you feel so wrong. Let me ask you, in that moment, did you respond with openness, or did you respond kind of like this, closed? Pretty closed, when you agree. Why is that? It's because hostility triggers the survival mind. So this means we respond way better to warmth than we do to hostility. Because even if you've been like me in the past, I used to have a very, very easily triggered mind, especially involving anger. I used to get little things irritating me, right? Little things irritating me. Even if you're kind of like me in the past, you notice every now and then you have come across somebody who can communicate with you, and you can be a little bit more open to that person, right? We all have. And you notice that person you're thinking of right now, where you had a great conversation with, they were more curious rather than certain. Instead of being certain they know what you're going through, they were more curious to know what you're going through. And that's an important energy to have. Why? Because anytime you've been influenced by somebody, you notice it's because you feel like that person understands you, not you understand them. True. So now let's rewind and think about, why do most teenagers never listen to their parents? When you was a teenager, why did you never listen to people who are older than you and so forth? Wouldn't you agree? Because you're saying to yourself, they don't understand me. Right? This is why these teenagers, they're being influenced by these teenage YouTubers online, or whomever, their friends, because they feel like their friends understand them more than their parents do. And in a lot of ways, let's be honest, this whole Gen Z, they are quite hard to understand. They got their own language as well, right? You ever notice that? Yeah, you ever like eavesdropped, like a North Korean eavesdropped on a Gen Z's conversation? And they're saying, you got some Riz, nice drip, right? You're like, what's Riz? What's drip? You know, it's confusing me so much, I had to look it up. Right? They got even their own language, right? So think about this. If we're going into that conversation certain we know them, then we'll be definitely certain that conversation wouldn't be healthy. So here's the first thing we must do. Replace certainty with curiosity when it comes to healthy communication. Also, you want to change somebody. It's not about you knowing your criteria for change, as in the change you want to see in them. We know that because we are us. We know what our belief is in terms of the change we want to see in that person. So what we got to do is get curious of what's their criteria for change. Imagine there's a father arguing with his daughter that smoking is bad. Father is objectively correct. Smoking is bad. But the problem is the father is not acknowledging his daughter's criteria for change. Daughter knows that smoking is bad, but she feels like her body's addicted. Also, she has a need to not be controlled by her dad, of which her dad's not even addressing. When you agree, in this circumstance, the chances of her dad half-fluencing her is 0. But if this dad was to now replace certainty with curiosity and get curious, what is her criteria for change? Then he can now open up this conversation rather than triggering each other and going into another argument again. So remind yourself, When we are arguing with somebody and we are not seeing both sides, it's a total waste of time. Nobody's been able to influence somebody like that. We want to get more curious and we want to ensure we figure out what is their criteria for change. And provided that happens, you'll notice all of a sudden, they're more open to you. Now, this wouldn't happen from one conversation. This will happen from numerous conversations you now have. But the number one thing you want to work on first, this is something that I always try to work on, is the energy you're approaching that conversation. You'll notice it makes such a big difference. You ever notice anytime anyone's had a deep conversation with you, you notice they were coming from not hostility, it was warmth and love, right? So work on your energy, how you're making that person feel, because that is all communication is about. Communication is all about connection, and we cannot connect if we are triggering other people's survival brain.